Good afternoon, everybody. Now, continuing with India-China ties. Before going into the break, we were responsible for discussing that what is the common factor between India and China, and also we discussed the internal problems of China. We discussed also what are the factors which are responsible for China's resurgence as a global player, and we were also responsible for discussing the Tibet issue. So all these things we have discussed. Now we would be discussing what? We would be discussing the territorial disputes between India and China. So let's discuss territorial disputes between India and China. So what are the territorial disputes between India and China that we have to know? So let's discuss those disputes as such. See, as far as the disputes between India and China is concerned, we can see that India and China, they share a boundary which is 2640 miles long. This is the stretch. So this boundary is 2640 miles long. And this boundary is divided into three sectors. One is called as what? One is called as the western sector. Second is called as the middle sector. And third is called as the eastern sector. So it's not that the entire boundary between India and China is referred to as McMahon Line. It is only the eastern sector boundary between India and China which is referred to as what? Which is referred to as McMahon Line. Clear? So it is only the eastern sector boundary between India and China which is referred to as McMahon Line. And as far as McMahon Line is concerned, McMahon Line was demarcated in the year 1913-14 under the Simla Agreement. There are two types of Simla Agreement. One which was signed between India and Pakistan, but before that a Simla Agreement was signed between the British government and the Chinese. So McMahon Line. And this China is responsible. Now the problem is what? China is responsible for accepting McMahon Line as a boundary between China and Myanmar, but rejects it to be the boundary between India and China. So China does not accept McMahon Line to be a boundary between China and India. That's the problem. Now China's claim is what? China is responsible for occupying a part of Indian territory. And if you look at this territory, which is called as the Aksai Chin region, this territory which is called as the Aksai Chin region, this territory has been occupied by China. Clear? This territory is under the control of China. And not only this part POK is occupied by Pakistan. So Jammu and Kashmir, only this much part we have. And this part, this area, now this area was seceded by China to Pakistan, and this was for the purpose of construction of Karakoram highway. So this was seceded by Pakistan to China for the construction of Karakoram highway. Clear? Gifted by Pakistan to China for construction of Karakoram highway. So India says that China is responsible for claiming 38,000 square kilometer of its territory in Aksai Chin region and roughly 5,180 square kilometer of its territory in the Sakcham Valley, which was gifted by Pakistan to China. So this total claim is that made by India. So this was gifted by Pakistan to China. So this is the claim of India. On the other hand, when we are talking about India, when we are talking about China, China says that India occupies more than 90,000 square kilometer of its territory in the eastern sector. Which area they are trying to refer to? They are trying to refer to as, the area which they are trying to refer to is Arunachal Pradesh, the Tawang region. Clear? So they want this part to be a part of China. Now that's very interesting factor. One interesting stand is what? That China before 1962 wanted concessions from India in the western sector. Now when it occupied the Aksai Chin region, Now it wants concessions from India in the eastern sector. Clear? That's an interesting fact, that China earlier was responsible for demanding concessions from India in the western sector. When it occupied the Aksai Chin, it started to demand concessions from India in the eastern sector, Arunachal Pradesh and the Tawang region. So that's one interesting fact. Another interesting fact that you have to know, that as far as India-China relationship is concerned, do remember a fact that recently clashes between India and China took place at Galwan, Arunachal Pradesh. But what is the reason behind this clash? What is the main reason behind this clash? Let's get into the core areas, core reasons for this clash to occur. That what are the reasons behind this clash? Clear? First of all, now China follows a land pull theory. Land pull theory has been given by Mao. And this land pull theory, there are two types of theory that China follows. One is called as string of pearls theory, and second is called as land pull theory. So Chinese assertiveness can be reflected in two manners. One is string of pearls theory. Let's see what is string of pearls theory. And second is called as land pearl theory. Land pearl theory is based on five-finger policy of Mao. The five-finger policy of Mao means what? That if suppose Tibet is the palm, that five inseparable fingers of Tibet include what? Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Bhutan, Ladakh and Nepal. These are five. So they are a part of China according to Mao. So sooner or later they can lay claim on Nepal also. Sooner or later they would be laying claim on Sikkim also. They are responsible for laying their claim on Ladakh region. So first of all, let's try to deal with all the issues containing to land pull theory, and then we'll deal with all the issues pertaining to the string of pearls theory. So let's deal with all these things. Clear? Write down the territorial disputes. Territorial disputes. China and India share a boundary. China and India share a boundary. Which is 2640 miles long. Which is 2640 miles long. 2640 miles long, and is divided into three sectors. The western sector, the middle sector, and the eastern sector. The western sector, the middle sector and the eastern sector. And we can see it is only in the eastern sector that the boundary between India and China is referred to as McMahon line. Right on, it is only in the eastern sector. That the boundary between India and China. Is referred to as McMahon line. It is only in the eastern sector that the boundary between India and China is referred to as McMahon line. And this was demarcated when? This was demarcated in the Simla Agreement of 1913-14. Right on, which was demarcated in the Simla Agreement. Of 1913-14, Simla Agreement of 1913-14, demarcated in the Simla Agreement of 1913-14, 13-14. Clear? So this was demarcated under the Simla Agreement of 1913-14. And as far as this agreement is concerned, we can see, so this agreement was responsible for demarcating the McMahon line not only between India and China, but also between China and Myanmar. At that time, Burma it was called. So China is responsible for accepting McMahon Line as a boundary between China and Myanmar, but not as a boundary between China and India. Right down. China is responsible for accepting. China is responsible for accepting McMahon Line. China is responsible for accepting McMahon Line as a boundary between McMahon Line as a boundary between McMahon Line as a boundary between China and Myanmar. China and Myanmar, but not as a boundary between China and Myanmar, but not as a boundary between, not as a boundary between China and, but not as a boundary between China and India. Clear? And first thing is what? That China claims 90,000 square kilometer of Indian territory in the eastern sector. Right on, China claims 90,000 square kilometers of Indian territory. 90,000 square kilometer of Indian territory in the eastern sector. China claims 90,000 square kilometer of Indian territory in the eastern sector. In the eastern sector. And which sector we are talking about? We are talking about the Tawang region, Arunachal Pradesh. So that area is claimed by China. On the other hand, we can see that India is responsible for claiming 38,000 square kilometer of territory in the Aksai Chin region, which China has captured, and also 5,180 square kilometer of territory which was gifted by Pakistan to China to construct the Karakoram highway. Right on, India is responsible for claiming. India is responsible for claiming 38,000 square kilometer. 38,000 square kilometer of territory. 38,000 square kilometer of territory in the Aksai Chin region, in the Aksai Chin region, which has been occupied by China, in the Aksai Chin region, which has been occupied by China, has been occupied by China. And also 5,180 square kilometer of territory, and I have showed you that in the map. 5,180 square kilometer of territory, which was seceded by Pakistan, to China. Seceded by Pakistan to China to construct the Karakoram highway, to construct the Karakoram highway in the Sakcham Valley. Karakoram highway in the Sakcham Valley. To construct the Karakoram highway in the Sakcham Valley. Clear? So this was Sakcham Valley. So all this you have to know. Now, and I have shown you that figure. This is the territory, Aksai Chin, and this part was seceded by Pakistan to China to construct the Karakoram highway. This part. So 5,180 square kilometer of this territory and 38,000 square kilometer. Now this is our claim that this is under the illegal occupation of China, and this is India's territory. Clear? India's territory. Now Chinese growing assertiveness in the context of India. We are talking about Chinese growing assertiveness in the context of India is based on what? It can be of two types. One is called as what? It can One is called as land pearl theory, and second is called as what? Second is called as string of pearls theory. Write down Chinese growing assertiveness. Chinese growing assertiveness. Growing assertiveness. In context of India, Chinese growing assertiveness in context of India broadly is in two forms. Broadly is in two forms. First, the land pearl theory. First, the land pearl theory, and second, the string of pearls theory. First, the land pearl theory, and second, the string of pearls theory. Land pearl theory, and second, string of pearls theory. String of pearls theory. Clear? And as far as land pearl theory is concerned, we can see land pearl theory is based on Mao's five-finger policy. Clear? Write down the land pearl theory. The land pearl theory is based on Mao's five-finger policy. Five-finger policy. And what is the five-finger policy that we talk about? Five-finger policy means that if Tibet is the palm, then the five inseparable fingers of this palm includes what? It includes Sikkim, Ladakh, Arunachal Pradesh, Bhutan, and also Nepal. Write down. According to this theory, if Tibet is the palm, according to this theory, if Tibet is the palm, the five inseparable fingers, the five inseparable fingers include Ladakh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. Ladakh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Bhutan, and Nepal. Now, in this context, we talk about what? In this context, we first of all take up the Tawang issue. Last year also we can see that there were clashes between the Indian and the Chinese troops in this region, that is the Tawang region. So why these clashes? What are the issues? So if we talk about the Tawang region, let's see, where is the Tawang region located? See this area, this is Bhutan, suppose. This area of Arunachal Pradesh, here it has been depicted on the map here also. This area of Arunachal Pradesh, which is bordering Bhutan, is called as Tawang region. I remove myself from here so that it's visible. This area of Arunachal Pradesh, which is bordering the Bhutan region, is called as what? It is referred to as Tawang region. Clear? This is referred to as Tawang region. Now, what is the entire story? The entire story is what? That China says that Tawang area is a part of Tibet. In fact, Tawang area is nothing but a part of South Tibet, and this area, according to Chinese, is called as Zangnan. This should be a part of China. They want this to be a part of China. See, why India cannot take action against China for this in the Sakcham Valley? Because first of all, in Sakcham Valley, you have to fight two enemies. On one side is Pakistan and on the other side is China. So be ready for that war. Then you can snatch the Sakcham Valley again from Chinese. So the warfare that would be there would be two front. One would be China on one side and the other would be Pakistan, because on the other side is Pakistan. Fine, so that's one problem. The second problem is what? That the matter of Jammu and Kashmir was taken by Pandit Nehru to UN. Clear, UN was responsible for ordering a plebiscite. Although India said that plebiscite cannot be conducted in Jammu and Kashmir, and if plebiscite is to be conducted in Jammu and Kashmir, let the first condition to be met, that withdrawal of troops takes place by both Pakistan and India. But Pakistan should be responsible for withdrawing its troops completely. India should be maintaining 50% of its troops as per the UN convention. And we can see that India would be maintaining this 50% of the troops, so that legally, because legally Jammu and Kashmir is a part of India. So if only we can convince both Pakistan and China, because they are not ready to accept Jammu and Kashmir, they want a plebiscite to be conducted. And a plebiscite should be conducted without withdrawal of troops, Pakistani troops. So if that is done, then only it is acceptable to them. But this kind of plebiscite which would be conducted by India, which should be conducted by India, according to them, is not acceptable to India. Because we will discuss that what is the right to self-determination, how a plebiscite can be conducted, what are the conditions for right to self-determination. So that's a different story. But presently, we cannot snatch away, we cannot take away the Sakcham Valley. Why? Because we would be facing two enemies. On one side is China and on second side is Pakistan. That's the reason. Now, we can see this is the Tawang region, and this is claimed by China. Now, India simply rejects it, because India says that member to parliament from the Tawang region has been there since 1950. So, this region is responsible for sending a member to parliament since 1950. That's one point. And this is an integral part of India. But the Tawang problem is due to many issues. Why there is this problem between India and China? Now, the problem is what? The significance of Tawang region is why? Because there is, in this area, a number of Tibetans are present. So, Tibetan population is significant in this area. Now, the fear of China is what? China fears a pan-Tibetan movement from across the border from the Tawang region. Pan-Tibetan movement from across the border from the Tawang region. That's the first fear of China. Clear? Then the second thing the second fear of China is what? The second fear of China is that this area, through this area, you can access China in the middle. Through this area, you can enter China in the middle. So this provides an easy access to the Chinese territory. So that's the concern for China. And because you can enter the mid of China from this area. The third thing is what? That this area is very close to Siliguri corridor. Siliguri corridor is the connect between the Indian mainland and the northeast. Fourth concern is what? That this area is very close to, this area borders Bhutan, and security of Bhutan is a concern for India, because security of Bhutan is nothing but India's responsibility as per the Friendship Agreement of 1949. Clear? And then in this area, the landscape is favorable for what? The landscape is favorable for the deployment of multi-layered air defense system which India is doing. Clear? So all these are the significance of the Tawang region. Sir, is local people of Tawang Valley of Arunachal Pradesh support China? They support India. They even speak Hindi, and they are very fluent in Hindi. Few months ago, came to know, China changed the name of this region. That see, if they change the name of this region also, because according to them it is called as Jiangnan, it hardly matters to the people of India, because the people of India, people in the Tawang region is not ready to accept. So first of all, this problem you have to know, that what is the Tawang problem. Clear? Then come to Galwan issue, Pangong Lake issue, then come to the Doklam issue between India and China, and then come to the string of pearls theory. So let's do it one by one and try to cover up each and every dispute between India and China. Write down. In land pearl theory, we are continuing. We have studied that there are 5-finger policy of Mao. So in land pearl theory, one dispute is what? One dispute is the Tawang region. Write down Tawang region. The Tawang region. This region of Arunachal Pradesh, this region of Arunachal Pradesh, region of Arunachal Pradesh, this region of Arunachal Pradesh borders Bhutan. This region of Arunachal Pradesh borders Bhutan and is claimed by China, and is claimed by China as part of Tibet, and is claimed by China as part of Tibet, as part of Tibet, and is claimed by China as part of Tibet, part of Tibet. Clear? So this is claimed by China as part of Tibet. And this region, according to China, this region is called as what? This region is, in Chinese, this is called as Jiangnan. Write down. In China, the Tawang region is referred to as, the Tawang region is called Jiangnan. Jiangnan or South Tibet. South Tibet. So the 90,000 square kilometer of Indian territory which they are referring to is under the control of India. Chinese territory is under the control of India, is Tawang region only. Tawang region. Clear? So this is under the control of India according to China. But India rejects this Chinese claim. Write down. India on the other hand is responsible for rejecting the Chinese claim. India on the other hand is responsible for rejecting the Chinese claim. On the other hand is responsible for rejecting the Chinese claim. The Chinese claim. India on the other hand is responsible for rejecting the Chinese claim. The Chinese claim. Clear? And according to India, this region has sent member to parliament since 1950. Write down. According to India, this region has sent member to parliament. This region has sent member to parliament since 1950. This region has sent member to parliament since 1950. Since 1950. And is an integral part of India. This region has sent member to parliament since 1950 and is an integral part of India. Integral part of India. And we can see the significance of Tawang region is due to many important considerations. And all these considerations you have to list. Clear? Write down. The significance of Tawang region. The significance of Tawang region is due to, the significance of Tawang region is due to many important consideration. The significance of Tawang region is due to many important considerations, which includes, and the first significance is what? You can take a screenshot of this also. Fine. Now write down. Completed. Now write down. Significance of Tawang region is due to many important considerations, which includes first. Now, this region has a sizable population of Tibetans, and the Chinese fear pan-Tibetan movement across the border. Write down, this region has a sizable population of, this region has a sizable population of Tibetans. Sizable population of Tibetans. And China fears pan-Tibetan movement across the border, and China fears pan-Tibetan movement across the border. Pan-Tibetan movement across the border. Clear? So that's the first thing. That's the first fear of China, that a pan-Tibetan movement can happen across the border, and this would be responsible for snatching Tibet away from China. That's the first thing. Significance. Now that's the first significance. The second significance is what? That this area is very close to Siliguri corridor, the connect between Indian mainland and the northeast. So it is not good for the security of northeast. Write down, this area is very close to Siliguri corridor. This area is very close to Siliguri corridor. The connect between Indian mainland, and northeast. The connect between Indian mainland and northeast. Clear? So this area is very close to Siliguri corridor. This is the connect between Indian mainland and northeast. Very fine. So for the security of the northeast, it is very important. Now the third reason is what? That this area borders Bhutan, and security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. Write down, this area borders Bhutan. This area borders Bhutan. And security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. Why? Because in 1949 we entered into a friendship agreement, and under this agreement the security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. Bhutan would be helped by India in maintaining its foreign policies, and security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. That's the 1949 agreement. That's why India was requested by Bhutan to help Bhutan in the Doklam crisis. Clear? Because this is India's responsibility as per the agreement reached in 1949. Now the fourth significance is what? That this region, that is your Tawang region, this is also this landscape of Tawang region is suitable for deployment of multi-layered air defense system, which is favorable for India. Write down, the landscape of the Tawang region, is suitable for deployment of multi-layered air defense system, multi-layered air defense system. Air defense system. And this is in favor of India. Write down which is in favor of India. Which is in favor of India. Multi-layered air defense system which is in favor of India. And the fifth thing which can be talked about, the significance of Tawang region, why it is significant. This provides easy access from India into the Chinese territory. Right now this region also provides easy access to India, access to India into the Chinese territory. This region also provides easy access to India into the Chinese territory. Chinese territory. Fine, clear. Now this is called as what? This is called as the Tawang problem. See, remember one very interesting incident which took place in Beijing. The World Women's Conference was conducted few years back. I don't remember the year right now. And the delegate from different countries went to attend this conference in Beijing. The Indian delegate also went, and among the Indian delegate there was a delegate from Arunachal Pradesh. Now the Arunachal Pradesh women delegate was not asked by the Chinese authorities for their visa, that whether you have a visa to travel to China. They were not checked even, because this was an indicative action taken by Chinese that this is your territory. To come to your land, to come to your territory, you do not require a visa. Clear? So this region is, this country is your country because you are an integral part of China. So these kind of diplomatic moves are taken by the Chinese sometimes, which irks the Indian authorities. That's why they are taking such moves. Clear? Which is responsible for irking the Indian authorities. Fine. Responsible for irking the Indian authorities. Now this is the Tawang dispute. Now let's move forward and discuss in the land pearl theory also. One issue we have discussed. The second issue that you have to discuss is called as the Galwan problem. See, in June 2020, about 20 Indian soldiers were killed, and they were killed where? They were killed in the Galwan Valley. So let's look at where is Galwan Valley present and why the Indian soldiers were killed. See, this part of Jammu and Kashmir, this is Ladakh, this is the Galwan region, this is the Pangong Lake here, and this is Aksai Chin region, which has been occupied by China. You can take a screenshot of this also. Done. Now, fine. Now that has been done. Now let's see. When we talk about the Galwan region, the Galwan region is an area which is very close to, which runs very close to CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And you know that Karakoram Valley is a part of CPEC also. India has constructed a road in this area. And this road is famously called as the DSDO road. DSDO road means Darbuk Shylock Daulat Beg Oldie Road. So this is called as Darbuk Shylock Daulat Beg Oldie Road. And this road is 240 kilometers of stretch. Now this passes where? It passes near the Galwan Valley. It's very close to CPEC. Clear? China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now China was never responsible for approving the formation or the establishment of this road. China rejected this because this is very close. The security of China is a concern. And Daulat Beg Oldi is the only part of Aksai Chin region which is presently under India's control. That's the only part that was left. Otherwise, entire part of the Aksai Chin region is with China. So India constructed that road. India constructed this road for protection of Ladakh region. The main purpose was to protect the Ladakh region. Because when you talk about Chinese incursions can be checked if you have well developed infrastructure in the border areas, which we are lacking. Clear? So this was never approved by China, and China also was suffering from another problem. Problem with China was it was facing Hong Kong crisis. Problem with China was that the image of China was tarnished due to the origin of COVID-19 virus from China. Then Chinese were losing contracts to Indians. The MNCs were investing in India rather than in China. All these were responsible for the Galwan action of Chinese soldiers. Clear? So 20 Indian soldiers died. But the claim of India was also that 40 Chinese soldiers also died. And this was later on certainly confirmed by the neutral experts that a number of soldiers have died also in the Galwan clash. As far as the Pangong Lake is concerned, if you see two-thirds of Pangong Lake is under the control of China. One-third of Pangong Lake is under the control of India. So, two-thirds under the control of China, one-third under the control of India. And on the side of the Pangong Lake, you can see the Finger Hills present. India's claim is from Finger 4 to Finger 8. China wants India to be restricted at Finger 4 only, not move beyond that. So, India's claim of Finger 4 to Finger 8 has been denied. Clear? And we can see that this clash occurred in June 2020 when a number of Indian soldiers died. But a number of Chinese soldiers also died. And later on, India was responsible for capturing some important peaks in this area. For example, Chushul Peak, Chushul Heights. And this was captured by a regiment of India, which is called as Special Frontier Force, which is also referred to as Vikas Battalion. So, Vikas Battalions is nothing but formed of Tibetans only, and they have been trained by Intelligence Bureau also, CIA also against the Chinese. Clear? So, they are a group of Tibetans only who are responsible for fighting the Chinese. So, this clash took place, and these were the reason for the clash. So, one topic we have discussed, and that is the Tawang Valley issue. Clear? Tawang region issue. Now, let us deal with the Galwan clash, and then we come to Doklam, so that we complete string of pearls theory. Write down Galwan clash. Galwan clash. The clash took place, Galwan clash. The clash took place in June 2020. The clash took place in June 2020. People of Aksai Chin region are under the control of China. Galwan clash took place on June 2020, where 20 Indian soldiers died. 20 Indian soldiers died. And we were not responsible for hiding the data. But also, roughly about 40 Chinese troops also died. Right on. But also about 40 Chinese troops also died. But also about 40 Chinese troops also died. Troops also died. Clear? And in this area, China has objected to construction of a road by India, which is called as Daulat Beg Oldi Darbuk Shayok Road. Right on in this area, China has objected to construction of a road, objected to construction of a road, which is called Darbuk Shayok, Daulat Beg Oldi, Darbuk Shayok, Daulat Beg Oldi Road, Darbuk Shayok, Daulat Beg Oldi Road, Daulat Beg Oldi Road, Darbuk Shayok, Daulat Beg Oldi Road. Clear? Now, which is DSDO Road? And this is a 250-kilometer stretch which passes near the Galwan region. Right down. This 250-kilometer road, passes through the Galwan region, and is very close to CPEC, CPEC means China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Very close to CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and is very close to CPEC. Clear? So China has objected to this road, and Daulat Beg Oldi is the only region of Aksai Chin which is under the control of India. Right on. Daulat Beg Oldi is the only region of Aksai Chin. Daulat Beg Oldi is the only region of Aksai Chin which is under the control of India. Clear? See, Riju Mishra, is China a democratic state in UNO or not? China refers it to be a People's Republic of China, and whenever you say Republic of China, technically you are democratic, but in realistic term you are not democratic. Why? Because you are a communist regime, and this communist regime, now this is a totalitarian communist regime. Clear? This regime is nothing but a totalitarian communist regime, because each and every sphere of life of people is controlled by the government of China. You do not have freedom in China, no proper freedom of press also, no democratic rights to the people. How can you call it a democratic nation? And Jinping rise happened. How? Because those leaders who are having a status in the Communist Party, in the Politburo mainly, his significance was more, and because of this his rise took place, because he played a very important role in the Politburo of the Communist Party. Now today there are dissent also, we can see voices of dissent against also Jinping, and he wants to silence this voice. The silencing this voice is through assertiveness of China, assert itself. Clear? So we can see Jinping's rise was due to all these causes, but today the criticism that he is suffering from, the criticism which has been leveled against him, Oh, KSG logo appears there. Sure. I won't write. Sampurna, I won't write on the top right corner of the board. Okay. Okay, fine. I won't write. I won't write. I'll take that precautionary measure that I won't write on the right corner of the board. Fine. I've taken this consideration. I won't write again in that right corner of the board because that's not visible because of the KG logo. Fine. So there is a voice of dissent against him, and he wants to silence this voice. So we can see that the Galwan clash occurred. There were many reasons. One reason was he wanted to silence the voice of dissent against him. Second reason was the image of China was being tarnished because of the COVID-19 virus emerging from Wuhan, because the US president was responsible for saying that this virus is a Chinese virus, Wuhan virus also. Third was losing contracts to India was another cause. So all these resulted in the Galwan clash. Let's teach India a lesson. But then India is not the same India of 1962. You cannot teach India a lesson now. If you teach India a lesson, then certainly there would be a reaction. And reaction can have far-reaching effects. And China, one thing is very clear. China does not want to engage with India in a clash because China has a greater aspiration of becoming a superpower. Clear? And India on the other hand wants to show the entire world that how China's hegemonistic design can be tackled, and it can be tackled by face-to-face confrontation with the Chinese. So both have their own reasons. Fine. And this was opposed by China because it passed very close to CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Sir, in Jammu and Kashmir, India have to fight with two countries, but not in the case of Arunachal Pradesh. Then why not India showing much aggressiveness in this region, and also day by day enemy nations becoming more stronger, which will be more difficult for India in future. See, whatever you see on the television or in the news, that does not really happen. It's not that only the Chinese troops are responsible for entering the territory of India. India also enters the territory of China, but we cannot write that in your answer sheet. According to India, both sides, not only India and China, both sides, when you talk about LAC, line of actual control is nothing but a perception boundary. It's a perception boundary. We think that our territory is beyond that boundary. They think that their territory is beyond that boundary. So line of actual control is a perception boundary. So it's not that only the Chinese troops are responsible for entering into the Indian territories. Indian troops also enter. And then the news would be flashing out in the Chinese media that Indian troops have entered. So what you see is one part of the story only. It's not that the Indian troops would be sitting idle. You can see the number of videos also being put on the social media where Indian troops are responsible for thrashing the Chinese badly. Punjab regiment with all kinds of abuses which I can never utter before you. Clear? So always we see that India fight China with hand to hand. I mean punching, never use gun. See, there is an agreement reached. And the agreement is that we won't be firing against each other. 1962. And that's why we are responsible for fighting with fist hand and not using any other equipments as such. Yes, there's an agreement. Fine. Now, this the road which is the concern. 20 people died. Right down in the Pangong Lake. Pangong Lake, near the Finger Hills in the Pangong Lake. This is the Pangong Lake. Pangong Lake, near the Finger Hills, near the Finger Hills, Chinese incursions also took place. Chinese incursions also took place. Incursions also took place. Incursions also took place. India claims Finger 4 to Finger 8. India claims Finger 4 to Finger 8. India claims Finger 4 to Finger 8. But China wants India to be restricted. But China wants India to be restricted. China wants India to be restricted. At Finger 4. China wants India to be restricted. At Finger 4. Finger 4. China wants India to be restricted at Finger 4. Clear? Finger 4. Fine. Restricted at Finger 4. Fine. And as far as Pangong Lake is concerned, 2/3 of the Pangong Lake is under the control of China and 1/3 is under the control of India. Write down. In the Pangong Lake, 2/3 of Pangong Lake, 2/3 of Pangong Lake is under the control of, 2/3 of Pangong Lake is under the control of China and 1/3 is under the control of India. 1/3 is under the control of India. 2/3 of Pangong Lake is under the control of China and 1/3 is under the control of India. And we can see that as far as Pangong Lake is concerned, now in this clash, India was responsible for gaining some strategic heights, for example, the Chushul height. And this was by the Vikas Battalion of India. Write down. In this clash, India was responsible for gaining certain height. In this clash, India was responsible for gaining certain height. Gaining certain height, like the Chushul height, which is of strategic importance. A Chushul height, which is of strategic importance. Now, this would be giving leverage to India. And near the Pangong Lake, this is, which is of strategic importance. Clear? Of strategic importance. And when India gained, this height was gained by India, this height was captured by the Vikas Battalion of India, which is nothing but special frontier force constituted by the Tibetans and trained by the Intelligence Bureau and the CIA of US. Clear? This height was captured by the Vikas Battalion. This height was captured by the Vikas Battalion. Vikas Battalion of Special Frontier Force, constituted by 5,000 Tibetans. 5,000 Tibetans. 5,000 Tibetans. 5,000 Tibetans. Clear? Fine. Now this is the Galwan clash. See, as far as the land pull theory is concerned, one another thing can be mentioned here, and it's imperative to mention here also what is referred to as the Doklam issue. So let's see, where is Doklam? If we have a map for that also. We don't have a map for that. Let's draw that map. Suppose this is, I'm drawing that map. Suppose this area. If we take over here, this area is Sikkim and this area is Bhutan. This is Bhutan and suppose this area is Sikkim. Here is Doklam located. This is Doklam. This is at the trijunction of Tibet, that's China, Sikkim and Bhutan. Sikkim, India, so Bhutan. It's located at the trijunction of Tibet, Sikkim and Bhutan. And this is an area which is claimed by China. See, if you talk about the land boundary dispute between China and Bhutan, so the land boundary dispute between China and Bhutan are three disputes. Two in the northern areas and one is Doklam. China says that it can give concessions to Bhutan in the two other disputes of northern areas. But on the other hand, Bhutan has to give concession to China in the Doklam sector. If this happens, China can give concessions in other two land boundary dispute, but then Bhutan would have to give concessions to China in the Doklam area. And this Doklam area is situated only 50 km away from Siliguri corridor. Only 50 km away from Siliguri corridor, which is the connect between Indian mainland and the northeast region. So only 50 km away from the Siliguri corridor. And see, when Aksai Chin was captured by China, it was captured by China not in one day. China wanted to make a road through the Aksai Chin region. So it started off just like making of a road. And then China captured. So similar kind of road was started. Construction of road started by the Chinese soldiers in the Doklam region, when Bhutan was responsible for calling India for help. Now, in 1949, we have agreed to help Bhutan, and Bhutan's security is India's responsibility. So we cannot move out of that responsibility. So Indian soldiers went there, and Indian soldiers were in a standoff with the Chinese troops for more than 70 days. More than 70 days standoff. And for the first time, this kind of standoff took place between India and China. More than 70 days, eye to eye contact. And the technicalities behind it is what? That an agreement was signed in way back in the year 1813 between China and the British government. And this agreement says what? That the boundary between the two sides, that is between Bhutan and the China, would be what? It would be following the upper crest. So according to China, the upper crest is the Gipmochi Mountains. And if Gipmochi Mountain is the upper crest, then Doklam should be a part of what? Doklam should be a part of China. But according to India, as far as India is concerned, we can see that the uppermost crest between Bhutan and China passes through Batangla range. That's the upper crest. And if this be the case, then Doklam is a part of Bhutan. It's as it is 4 kilometers away from Doklam in the north. That's the technicalities. Clear, so where it is present. And India showed to the entire world that how the growing assertiveness of China can be tackled. Around Doklam issue. Doklam issue. Not writing this side, this side. Doklam issue. And this happened in the year 2017. Right down. In 2017, Indian troops were engaged in more than 70-day standoff. Standoff means face to face. Indian troops were engaged in more than 70 days of standoff. 70 days of standoff. More than 70 days of standoff with the Chinese soldiers at Doklam. With the Chinese soldiers at Doklam. Soldiers at Doklam. Chinese soldiers at Doklam. Right now, China has 3 disputes with Bhutan. China has 3 disputes with Bhutan. Maybe that's why Bhutan is the most peaceful country in the world, as they have much, they do not have much tensions regarding security. Yes, you can say so. China has 3 disputes with Bhutan. Apart from Doklam, 2 other disputes are in the northern areas. Apart from Doklam, 2 other disputes are in the northern areas. 2 other disputes are in the northern areas. And Doklam is situated where? Doklam is situated near the Chumbi Valley. Chumbi Valley is what? Chumbi Valley demarcates Sikkim from Bhutan. Write down. Doklam is situated near the Chumbi Valley. Doklam is situated near the Chumbi Valley. Chumbi Valley, which demarcates Chumbi Valley, which demarcates Sikkim from Bhutan. Chumbi Valley, which demarcates Sikkim from Bhutan. Sikkim from Bhutan, which demarcates Sikkim from Bhutan. Clear? And it is situated at the tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. It is situated at the tri-junction of, you can see China also, India also, Bhutan also. Tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. It is situated at the tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan. India, China and Bhutan. India, China and Bhutan. Clear? And this is only 50 kilometers away from the Siliguri corridor. That's why it is so significant. Write down. It is significant as it is. Only 50 kilometers away from. It is significant as it is. Only 50 kilometers away from. Siliguri corridor. Siliguri corridor. Clear? And India helped Bhutan. Why? Because security of Bhutan is India's responsibility as per the agreement of 1949. Write down, India helped Bhutan. India helped Bhutan as security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. India helped Bhutan as security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. As security of Bhutan is India's responsibility. Is India's responsibility. As per the agreement of 1949. As per the agreement of 1949, which was reached between India and Bhutan, and this is called as what? This is called as friendship agreement, which was reached between India and Bhutan. Clear? So, as per the agreement of 1949. First thing, 1949. Fine. So, this is your, now India tried to show the entire world that how China's growing assertiveness can be met through the Doklam standoff. Right down. With the help of this standoff, India tried to show the entire world that how the growing assertiveness of China, can be met. That how the growing assertiveness of China can be met. But what are the technicalities of this dispute? The technicalities of this dispute is, according to an agreement reached between the British and the Chinese, the boundary between these two countries should be following the upper crest. And according to China, Gipmochi mountain is the upper crest, which is rejected by India and Bhutan. India and Bhutan says that Batangla is the upper crest, and this is 4 kilometers to the north of Doklam. So, Doklam is a part of Bhutan. Right down. According to an agreement reached between British and Chinese, the boundary between the two countries, should follow the upper crest. The boundary between the two countries should follow the upper crest. Clear? And according to China, Mount Gipmochi is the upper crest. Write down. According to China, Mount Gipmochi is the upper crest. According to China, Mount Gipmochi is the upper crest. Fine. China, Mount Gipmochi is the upper crest. Fine. Is the upper crest. And according to India and Bhutan, Batangla is the upper crest, which is situated 4 kilometers to the north of Doklam. So, Doklam is a part of Bhutan. Write down. According to India and Bhutan, Batangla is the upper crest. Batangla is the upper crest. Batangla is the upper crest. Batangla is the upper crest, and this is situated 4 kilometer to the north of. This is situated 4 kilometer to the north of. Doklam. As such, Doklam is a part of Bhutan. 4 kilometer to the north of Doklam. As such, Doklam is a part of Bhutan. Clear? Fine. This is the Doklam issue. So land pearl theory, all these things. Galwan issue, Tawang issue. Clear? Then Pangong Lake issue, Doklam issue. But when you talk about string of pearls theory, clear, land pearl theory, there are two ways through which we have discussed. The Chinese assertiveness in context of India is reflected. But the Chinese assertiveness in context of India is also reflected through another theory, and that is called as string of pearls theory. See, string of pearls theory means that if you look at the map of India, suppose this part of India, this is Sri Lanka. It's not bad, not good map. Let's draw it better. Suppose here this is Sri Lanka, and here in Myanmar there is a port which is called as what? Which is called as Quoc Phu. Then there is a port here, and this is called as what? This is called as Gwadar. That's in Pakistan. And this is where? This is in Myanmar. Then there is a port which is called as Hambantota. This Hambantota is where? It is in Sri Lanka. So you can see that India is, and all these three ports have been established by whom? It has been established by China. So one can say that China is responsible for flanking India from three sides. Now this is called as what? This is called as string of pearls theory. So China is responsible for flanking India from three sides, and this is called as what? This is referred to as the string of pearls theory. Now China says that this is not the policy that China is following. China says that this is only a perception of the Western world. Clear? This is a perception of the Western world. China is not really following the string of pearls theory. So this is a perception of the Western world. And as far as string of pearls theory is concerned, these ports which have been developed by China is a part of maritime Silk Route of China, and this is to meet the energy requirements of China. That is Chinese perception. That's China what formally says. Clear? All these ports which have been established either in Myanmar, or it has been established in Pakistan or in Sri Lanka, all these ports are civilian in nature. So we should not be concerned about civilian ports. We should be concerned about military ports. But they can be put under the control of Chinese soldiers if there is a conflict with India. Clear? So that's the concern of India. And concern of India is also not only this. The concern of India is the interest that the Indian neighbors show in China. Interests that Indian neighbors show in China. And that's why I'm saying that why not we should revisit all the agreements that we have reached with neighbors. We should be responsible for revisiting those agreements that we have reached with neighbors and sign them on parity terms, sign them on equal terms. Why should Nepal seek the permission of India for buying arms from other countries? It's a sovereign nation. Clear? It's a sovereign nation. No reason for seeking permission from India to buy arms from other nation. Why should Bhutan consult India on its foreign policy? Now, all these agreements, they are responsible for paving the way for China in our neighborhood. China is a big investor in our neighborhood. India cannot match the Chinese investment. And in addition to that, you have agreements with your neighbors which are one-sided. So this brings to the question that whether India is following a big brother's approach in the Indian subcontinent. And this has been utilized by China in communicating with India's neighbors and investing in this region to check the Indian hegemony in South Asia. Clear? So all these ports are civilian in nature, but it can be put for military purpose and it can be taken control by the Chinese soldiers anytime if there is a Sino-Indian conflict taking place. Sino-Indian conflict taking place. So that's the concern of India. And India was regarded as a mute spectator to string of pearls theory of China. India never took any action earlier. But in 2014, India was responsible for taking an action against it. And India, the Ministry of Culture of India, what has Ministry of Culture to do with strategic concerns? So the Ministry of Culture of India, the Secretary Ministry of Culture, Dr. Ravinder Singh, he presented a paper at the 38th session of UNESCO's World Heritage Sites, which was conducted at Doha. And this paper, which was presented by Ministry of Culture, was called as what? It was called as Project Mausam. So this was called as what? This was called as Project Mausam. And Project Mausam, although it is in the cover of Ministry of Culture, it is in the Ministry of Cultural garb, but it has strategic implications. Clear? So it is in the cultural garb because it was presented by the Ministry of Culture, but it has strategic implication. So what strategic implication? How it is related to string of pearls theory? Now, UNESCO was responsible for tagging the Indian Ocean. It has given a tag to the Indian Ocean, name to Indian Ocean, and this tag is called as what? Indian Ocean has been termed as a transnational property according to UNESCO. Transnational property means where cultural exchanges would take place. So UNESCO is responsible for calling the Indian Ocean a transnational property where cultural exchanges can take place. Cultural exchanges can take place. Now this tag of Indian Ocean would be used by India for developing cultural ties with not only neighbors but also countries of Southeast Asia, also countries of East Africa, also countries of the Arabian Peninsula. So India would be using this tag of Indian Ocean to develop good ties with them, and then these ties would be converted into what? Not only commercial or economic ties but also strategic partnership, with the help of which India would be negating string of pearls theory of China. Clear? String of pearls theory of China. And this project has been named as Project Mausam because in the ancient times, the sailors of India used to utilize monsoon winds for its travel, for their travel, and that's why it has been called as what? It has been called as Project Mausam. It has been referred to as Project Mausam. Sir, why not India built port at Vietnam, Philippines, in South China Sea to counter China? Already we are responsible for, uh, we have an access to a number of ports in that area. We have an access to the Changi Naval Base in Singapore. We have an access to also the Sabang port in Indonesia. We have an access to the Dugam port in Oman, that's on this side. Then we have also an access to the Seychelles Island, and all these accesses that has been given to India. We have an access, we are developing the Chabahar port in Iran. So all these ports which have been developed by India, or for which India has an access, would be constituting what? Would be constituted the necklace of diamond. And you can see the answer that India has given to the growing assertiveness of China in the form of string of pearls theory is nothing but Project Mausam and also the necklace of diamond. Clear? And this initiative of India, Project Mausam and the necklace of diamond, they are also in tune with a policy of US which is called as Asia Pivot Policy. Clear? Asia Pivot Policy is for containment of China. Containment of China. Write down. String of pearls theory. String of pearls theory. String of pearls theory. China has established ports. China has established ports at Gwadar, that's in Pakistan, at Gwadar, Quack Phu, and Hambantota. Gwadar, Pakistan, Quack Phu, Myanmar, and Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Clear? And these ports are said to be a part of string of pearls theory of China. Write down, these ports are said to be a part of string of pearls theory of China. Are said to be a part of string of pearls theory of China. String of pearls theory of China. Clear? And we can see that the allegation against China is that China is responsible for encircling India from three sides. Write down, as China tries to encircle India. As China tries to encircle India from three sides. As China tries to encircle India from three sides. Tries to encircle India from three sides. Three sides. See, China has rejected string of pearls theory by saying that this is nothing but a perception of West. Write down, China has rejected the string of pearls theory by stating that. China has rejected the string of pearls theory by stating that. String of pearls theory by stating that this is a perception of the West. That this is a perception of the West. Perception of the West. And what are these ports? These ports are mainly to meet the energy requirements of China. Write down, these ports have been developed. These ports have been developed to meet the energy requirements of China. These sports have been developed to meet the energy requirements of China. The energy requirements of China. And you can see that all these sports, even China, all these sports are civilian but can be put under the control of Chinese troops whenever India-China clash takes place. Right on, all these sports are civilian. All these sports are civilian, but can be put under the control of, Chinese troops, but can be put under the control of Chinese troops, but can be put under the control of Chinese troops if India-China clash occurs, but can be put under the control of Chinese troops if India-China clash occurs. India-China clash occurs. Iron curtain theory means what? Iron curtain theory means what is happening in your territory is not known to the entire world. For example, whatever happened in Russia was not known to the entire world. And why not known to the entire world? Because it was said to be that there was an iron curtain over Russia. No information leaked from Russia. So when we talk about the policy of Glasnost, Glasnost is the policy of openness to remove the iron curtain, let the world know what is happening in USSR, which failed. So similar iron curtain theory is in context of China also. Whatever is happening in China, you don't know, because there is no freedom of press. Clear? No democratic rights, no freedom of press. So today what is happening in China, you don't know. And you would be also reported selectively by the Chinese mouthpiece, government mouthpiece, which is called as Global Times. Selectively you would be informed about that. Clear? Fine. So these ports are civilian in nature but can be put under, and India was considered to be what? India was considered to be a mute spectator to string of pearls theory of China. Right down, India was considered to be a mute spectator to string of pearls theory of China. Mute spectator to string of pearls theory of China. India was considered to be a mute spectator to string of pearls theory of China. String of pearls theory of China. Clear? Fine. When India decided to respond, and India responded in the year 2014. How? Because India in the year 2014 presented a paper before the 38th sessions of the World Heritage Committee of UNESCO, which is called as Project Mosam. Right down, in the year 2014, the Ministry of Culture, in the year 2014, the Ministry of Culture presented a paper called Project Mosam. Before the 38th session of World Heritage Committee of UNESCO, World Heritage Sites. 38th session of World Heritage Sites of UNESCO. which was conducted at Doha. Which was conducted at Doha. So although this paper is in the cultural garb, cultural cover, but this initiative has strategic implication. Write down, although this paper is in the cultural cover, although this paper is in the cultural cover, but it has cultural cover, but it has strategic implications, cultural cover, but it has strategic implication. Clear? But what is the strategic implication? So India would be using the tag of UNESCO for the Indian Ocean. So UNESCO has been called the Indian Ocean a transnational property. Write down, the Indian Ocean has been given a tag by UNESCO. The Indian Ocean has been given a tag by UNESCO. And is called as transnational property. Transnational property. Now India would be using this tag of Indian Ocean to develop cultural ties with not only neighbors but also the countries of Southeast Asia, the countries of Arabian Peninsula and East Africa, and these ties would be converting into strategic partnership, and the string of pearls theory would be negated. Around India would use this tag of the Indian Ocean. To develop, India would use this tag of the Indian Ocean to develop cultural ties with not only neighbors, but also countries of Southeast Asia. The Arabian Peninsula, also countries of Southeast Asia, Arabian Peninsula, East Africa, and we can see these ties would be transforming into strategic partnership so that string of pearls theory can be negated. Write down, these ties would be transforming into strategic partnership. These ties would be transforming into strategic partnership so that the string of pearls theory can be negated. String of pearls theory can be negated. Is that clear? String of pearls theory can be negated. Fine, clear. So this is how India would be tackling the string of pearls theory of China. And do remember that this has been named as Project Mausam because the ancient times that the sailors used to utilize the monsoon winds for the purpose of travel. So that's why it is called as Project Mausam. Fine. But this is one part. Second part is also that India has today access to the Dugam port in Oman. Then India is having access to the Changi naval base in Singapore, and then Sabang port in Indonesia. And India is responsible for developing the Assumption Island in Seychelles, and also the Chabahar port in Iran. And this would be constituting what is called as the necklace of diamond, which is also an answer to string of pearls theory of China. Now, India today has access to Dugam port in Oman, has access to Dugam port in Oman. Sabang port in Indonesia. Sabang port in Indonesia. Then Changi naval base. In Singapore. Changi naval base in Singapore, and is developing the Chabahar, and is developing the Chabahar port in Iran. And also Assumption Island. In Seychelles, which is referred to as string of pearls, which is referred to as necklace of diamond, So it appears to be all these ports, they resemble a diamond, necklace of diamond. And we can see necklace of diamonds. And this is also an answer to string of pearls theory of China. It is also an answer to string of pearls theory of China. Clear? So this is also an answer to string of pearls theory of China. Fine. So that's your land boundary disputes, Tibet problem, string of pearls theory, and all these theories, where it is string of pearls theories, the Project Mausam or the necklace of diamond, which is answer to string of pearls theory, is in tune with the Asia pivot policy of US. Because Asia pivot policy of US is for containment of China. Clear? As US does not want to its supremacy to be challenged. So who can challenge US supremacy? It cannot be challenged by Russia today, because Russia is undergoing a sluggish economic phase. It cannot be challenged by the Islamic world today. Why? Because the Islamic world is highly disunited in nature. And it can be challenged by only one country, both in economic and military terms, and that is China. So for this purpose, US launched a policy which is called as Asia Pivot Policy. So you can see whether it is Project Mausam of India or Necklace of Diamond of India. Now this is in tune with the Asia Pivot Policy of US for containment of China. So whatever initiative you talk about, whether it's a Quad initiative or other initiative, that is for containment of China. Clear? Write down the Project Mosam necklace of diamond. Project Mosam necklace of diamond are in tune with the Project Mosam necklace of diamond are in tune with Asia pivot policy of US. Asia pivot policy of US. Asia pivot policy of US, which is for containment of China. Asia pivot policy of US, which is for containment of China. For containment of China. Clear? So all these disputes, the land boundary dispute, land pearl theory, string of pearls theory covered. Now see, there's a problem between India and China, and this problem is of stapled visa. Stapled visa means that if suppose I am from Arunachal Pradesh or I am from Jammu and Kashmir and I want to visit China, so on the Indian passport that suppose I have when I go to visit China, they would be putting their stamp, the Chinese stamp would be put that this so and so has visited China. Clear? That's the normal exercise. But if I am from Jammu and Kashmir and I am from Arunachal Pradesh, when I visit China, a paper would be attached to my passport and then the Chinese stamp would be registered. Now this is called a stapled visa. Stapled visa. And when you return back, this paper would be torn off, so that there is no evidence of your visit to China. Clear? No evidence of your visit to China. Now this is called as what? This is called as stapled visa, and this is mainly for the people coming from Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir, because according to them, these people are their own people. Clear? These people are their own people. So this is called as stapled visa. Write down stapled visa issue. Stapled visa issue. Visa issue. For people coming from Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. For people coming from Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. For people coming from Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. Stapled visas are provided by China. Stapled visas are provided by China. As they do not regard these territory to be a part of, as they do not regard these territory to be a part of, these territory to be a part of China, as they do not regard these territory to be a part of India, these territory to be a part of India. And what is a stapled visa? Under the stapled visa, a piece of paper would be attached to the passport on which, under this system, a piece of paper is attached to the Indian passport. Under this system, a piece of paper is attached to the Indian passport, where the stamp is registered. A piece of paper is attached to the Indian passport where the stamp is registered. And when the person leaves the country, leaves China, this would be torn off. This paper would be removed so that there is no evidence of his or her visit. Write down, when the person leaves China, this paper would be torn off. This paper would be torn off. So that there is no evidence of his visit to China. there is no evidence of his visit to China. This paper would be torn off so that there is no evidence of his visit to China. His visit to China. No evidence of his visit to China. Clear? His visit to China. Is that clear? And the reason is obvious that they do not regard Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh to be. And for people of these areas only, they are responsible for issuing the stapled visa. Otherwise, for no other people, they are no other citizen of India from other states, they are responsible for issuing such visa. So that's a stapled visa issue between India and China. See, there are many other disputes between India and China. So if we talk about the disputes between India and China, these are the main disputes between India and China, but there are many other disputes. For example, China support to Pakistan, economic assistance and military assistance, which you know very well, is responsible for disturbing the power equation in the Indian subcontinent. Third, next is India's proximity with US, because US wants to utilize India to counterbalance China. So that's also another concern. Now the third thing is what? The nuclear program of India. So a bone of contention between India and China is always a nuclear program of India. And India cannot stop its nuclear weapons program. Why? Because it has suffered aggression at the hand of Chinese in 1962, which is nothing but a recognized nuclear power. Recognized nuclear power. So that's one reason. And we cannot even sign the NPT. Why? Because our nuclear doctrine is of no first use. Clear? So we would be attacking any other country whenever they are attacked, when they attack us with nuclear, biological or chemical weapons. Otherwise, our policy is of no first use. Then we can see that we are not signing the NPT also. Why? Because India has conducted successfully 2 nuclear experiments and its nuclear policy is for peaceful purpose. So we have a very good track record in non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. And if suppose we are to sign the NPT, what is the assurance that other de facto nuclear powers like Pakistan or Israel would do so? So that's also a concern for India. So that's why India cannot stop its nuclear program. Its nuclear program would be going on and on. Clear? But when India conducted the second nuclear experiment in 1998, the letter written by the Prime Minister of India to the US President explaining this testing was what? That they were responsible for pointing fingers at China. This is our enemy, for them we have tested this nuclear weapons. So they are responsible for pointing fingers towards China. Clear? So nuclear weapons program is a concern between India and China. Not only the growing naval presence of China in the Indian Ocean is a matter of concern, but there are other concerns between India and China. So all these concerns we would be picking up later tomorrow. Fine. Sir, in future, India capable to challenge us. India capable to challenge us is, us means US. Okay, challenge US. Is US also make a counter policy? Maybe that they may make a counter policy for India. Clear? But this is a policy tendency of US. This much for today. And on this note, we leave the class. Tomorrow we'll try to complete China and India and then deal with India, Pakistan. So much.